So for today's video, we're going to be comparing the twin cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul to Tampa Bay, this entire Tampa, Florida area, right? So let's go over some of the comparables, what neighborhoods are similar, now that I've been down here for quite a while here, working both Minnesota and Florida. A lot of things are super similar when it comes to the neighborhoods, and we can kind of take a look at a few of them here. So, for the first one here, Minneapolis, in my opinion, Minneapolis is a combination of Tampa and St. Pete, right? So Minneapolis is compared to Tampa because Minneapolis has this business district. A lot's going on down there, okay? So the city of Tampa, right in downtown here, is very much white collar, very much a lot of business going on right in downtown, kind of upscale through the Channelside district, and then throughout downtown here, a lot of growth. So we also see that in Minneapolis, where a lot of business is being held in the city of Minneapolis, but that's where the comparisons kind of end. So Minneapolis is also like St. Pete in a way that St. Pete is very much vibrant with the arts district. And you can find that in Minneapolis through the multiple theaters and then the Art Institute, and then almost all of Uptown and Dinkytown and all these little boroughs, plus even out in Chanhassen with Stevie Ray's and the Chanhassen Dinner Theater. So you have a lot of stuff going on in Minneapolis that's very similar to St. Pete too. So if you look at the map between the two, you got a comparison of Tampa, which is very white collar, and then you have St. Pete, which is very artsy, kind of more relaxed. And it's close to what Minneapolis is when it comes to the artsy, but also white collar, right? So, one of the hot places to be in these neighborhoods here is in Minneapolis. We really see the warehouse district right to the top here, right? So we'll see the warehouse district, this entire area that's very young, the North Loop. Very young, very up and coming, a little bit wealthier, a little bit more affluent, a lot of people that have higher incomes but are younger and want still the thrill of living downtown and whatnot. So my comparison to what the North Loop and kind of the warehouse district, kind of this north inside the city of Minneapolis here, is we'll look at Channelside for Tampa. So a good comparison is in downtown Tampa, Channelside, this district right over here to the Channel District, would be the comparison of the North Loop warehouse district in Minneapolis, okay? So if we zoom in, the Channelside district is this entire district next to the cruise ships right over here. So it's a lot of new growth. And if you've know anything about Tampa, there's a street over here called Water Street, right next to Benchmark Arena. That's where, or Amalie Arena, that's where the Lightning play. Water Street is becoming Brickell, if you've heard of Miami. Brickell is a big hub for kind of a New York style city, right, where everything's super tall, very expensive. It's the place to be. Well, Water Street is slowly becoming into that. In Minneapolis, Water Street is the around, I would say, Acme and that whole strip of super high-end condos and whatnot, and you see that through Water Street here. This entire area is currently being developed, or we'll have it straight through here, and huge high-rise buildings just like we have going on here. So that's kind of the gist of it when it comes to those two. So we'll look at Channelside, and then we look at the North Loop. So now when it comes to Uptown in Minnesota, okay, Uptown, I would say Uptown and that entire district, right? Get over to Uptown here. We look at Uptown, the shopping, the theaters, the clubs, the restaurants and everything. A comparison over here in Tampa, we would go into this cute little area called Hyde Park, and specifically the Hyde Park Village, right? So this entire area, Hyde Park Village, is a lot of really good shopping, great restaurants, and that is compared to what this strip is right here. Okay, it is a really good spot. It's a place to be. There's a place called Bar Taco. There's Meat Market. There's other things like that. If you remember old Uptown, it's a good comparison to like where Chino Latinos was and where the Jungle Theater is, Breakfast Club Minneapolis, all these nice places, great places to eat along this spot here, Uptown. We would compare that to Hyde Park. Now the nice thing is, off of Uptown, there are a couple good streets and bad streets, but really close to it is Calhoun Isles, Lake of the Isles, and Kenwood. Going into even some areas of South Uptown, that is really comparison to Hyde Park, which is Hyde Park starting right around here, and then we go down all the way to Bayshore Gardens, and then we even kind of get closer into South Soho area as well in Tampa, right? With the Publix right there, kind of that triangle. I would say going across that triangle right there. When we compare the two, they have a lot of similarities. It's also a lot of places, it's a very youthful, very much the place to be, going out, good shopping, and so on. So let's get into, I would say, Northeast Minneapolis. I would compare that to Northeast Minneapolis, right around here. I would compare Northeast Minneapolis to Seminole Heights. Okay, Seminole Heights, kind of Tampa Heights, that type of area over here. We're looking at Seminole Heights, I would say Southeast Seminole, where things are on the up. There's a lot of building, there's a lot of tearing down, new builds. You get a lot of high-end housing coming in, replacing older housing, especially along the river here. And then Northeast Minneapolis is rather artsy and really creative. It's a little bit rougher when it comes to some certain areas. And that's kind of the same thing that you're going to get over here. Riverside Heights, Tampa Heights, this entire area from, I would say, a little bit west of College Heights here, so maybe halfway through, all the way up to Seminole Heights is a good comparison to what Northeast Minneapolis, even up to Columbia Heights and down, Northeast Minneapolis is over here. We're not going to cross the river into Hawthorne or anything, but we're going to go from St. Anthony to the river over here to Columbia Heights all the way down. It's a really good comparison where you're looking to find the similar type of vibe and so on. Okay, so we will get into kind of more... We'll get into more upscale, and let's hit Edina. Everybody knows Edina in Minnesota. Edina is the place to be, great schools, centrally located, a little bit more high-end when it comes to housing, a little bit more dense. We look at Edina right here on the map. Edina, I would say Edina is South Tampa, okay? So now South Tampa is a little unique because South Tampa is kind of bigger. It really runs in a whole bunch of communities here, but in my opinion, we'll really get kind of the beach park. I would say the really from Kennedy. I would say from Kennedy Street all the way down to Palmacia and over. Okay, I would really compare this entire area is South Tampa, and I would compare that to Edina. Okay, so really good schools when it comes to it. A lot of the shopping is there. A lot of the places you want to be are there. Very high-end housing. Housing is typically around $800,000 to $900,000 and up. You'll see that very similarly in Edina as well here. So if you really are looking for a place that's very similar to Edina, centrally located, easy to get in and out, higher end when it comes to budget, you're going to be looking at South Tampa, and we're going to compare that to Edina. So if we're going to be looking for a place like Roseville, in my opinion, Roseville is a little unique. We'll go up to Roseville up here. Roseville, another kind of centrally located, a little bit smaller price point. Typically they are running from, I would say maybe higher 4s and 5s all the way up to $1 million plus, but typically they're a little bit easier to get into. I would say the Roseville area, we're going to be looking at parts of Town and Country. It's really the north side over here. You're going to encapsulate West Chase, Citrus Park, and kind of Carllowood, right? Parts of Carllowood. So you're going to get that. It's a little bit more suburban, still dense, very dense, close to the city. But you're going to get that when it comes to the north side of Town and Country into West Chase, going on over into Carllowood, kind of where I'm circling around here, right? So that's what you're really going to get when it comes to a comparison of just what it's looking like for lifestyle and whatnot, and easeability moving from Minnesota down here to the Tampa Bay, Tampa, St. Pete, even the Sarasota, this whole area. That's what you're going to be looking at. Okay, so we'll go down on the list here. So a lot of people, when it comes to Woodbury, I would say Maple Grove, Woodbury, you're going to scoot on out here. Woodbury, actually we'll go with Maple Grove here. So we'll really hit Maple Grove into kind of two spots, okay? So when we look at Tampa, we look at this entire roads coming straight through here. We'll look at the west side of Wesley Chapel, which is the main city here. We'll say Wesley Chapel encapsulates parts of western Zephyr Hills, and we're going to go all the way down into New Tampa, right? So if you're looking at a place like Woodbury, Maple Grove, specifically we'll hit it, Woodbury here, we're going to take in New Tampa, and then we're going to take in Wesley Chapel. Okay, so you're going to see very similar when it comes to housing, new housing, bigger houses, but they also come along with that price tag. We are, I would say, from Minneapolis to Woodbury, you're about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on traffic. And then you'll get the same thing over here, except for Wesley Chapel, you're going to add maybe 5 or 10 more minutes onto it. So during traffic, you'll easily hit, to get from Wesley Chapel into Tampa, you'll hit 40 minutes, maybe 45 if traffic is really bad. But you're going to get that the same when it comes to Minneapolis to Woodbury, going through the cities. The difference is through here, you're going to be going down 75 to 275. And then to get to Minneapolis, you'll be going obviously from 94. If you want to cut through St. Paul, you can. Otherwise, typically you would take Woodbury would be 494, and then you would head on up into Minneapolis that way. So it's really close. It's a good comparison when it comes to what you get lifestyle-wise. Kind of along those lines, okay? And then in my opinion, when it comes to Maple Grove, it's a little bit more difficult because Maple Grove is a combination of a few things. So there's Riverview right over here in Tampa, Riverview, Apollo Beach, and then if anything, I would really compare Maple Grove to Lakewood Ranch, right? Down here towards Sarasota. Now, obviously, this is way farther away from Tampa than Maple Grove is from Minneapolis here, right? When I'm talking about the feel of a neighborhood, the demographics, everything that you'll see looking for, it's really Lakewood Ranch is pretty similar to what it is. Now, Lakewood Ranch is very up and coming. It's very nice. It's very new, bigger houses, and I would say they're a little bit more expensive when it comes to Maple Grove. But Lakewood Ranch is being built up the same way that Maple Grove is, because Maple Grove, Osseo, this entire area here, right, has absolutely exploded. You know, there's even people living up in Rogers where that, you know, Rogers was far away a couple years ago, but everything's kind of exploded that way. That's the same when it comes to Lakewood Ranch down here, okay? There are a few people that live down in Lakewood Ranch that work in Tampa, and Lakewood Ranch is about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 to Tampa. Now, that is a long ways away. Obviously, Maple Grove is much closer, but when we're talking about the building and kind of the home styles and what you're looking for in a house, you're going to see similarities down here in Lakewood Ranch. Now, a lot of the things that you're going to see the difference from Minnesota homes, typically Minnesota homes are taller, they're built up, they're a little bit bigger. Down here in Florida, a lot of homes are one level, maybe 2 levels if you've got a bigger home, but a lot of them are 1 levels, and they're a lot, you know, kind of more smaller ceilings, everyth's a little bit shorter, okay? So the differences between the two, obviously you'll see, but that's very similar when it comes to the style, right? So the next one here, we will get into, I would say, Minnetonka and Eden Prairie. This is going to be the first time we're really going to get over into kind of St. Pete. So when it comes to Minnetonka, right, Minnetonka is unique because you also got part of Lake Minnetonka over here, but we'll just focus on kind of the main city of Minnetonka. We're going to get into St. Pete, and St. Pete's very similar to Minnetonka. Now I'm going to focus on kind of a unique kind of shape. So what we're going to do is take short acres here. We're going to take that Snell Isle, and then we're going to go into the top part over here. Does that make sense? So we're going to hit historic Old Northeast. We're going to make a big kind of oval around what you're going to see. Okay, you're going to get a lot of these beachfront, well, not beachfront, you're going to get waterfront housing right over here, and then you're going to get the historic, big, beautiful homes that have been renovated, that have been pretty historic, okay? You're going to get that in Minnetonka over here. Now, obviously, just looking at density-wise, you're going to get more space in Minnetonka. If I look at Minnetonka, you know, maybe the most dense area, you're going to be looking at something like that. But here in Minnetonka, you're going to be looking at the same type of housing that you're going to get over here. Okay, it's a little bit more dense. I know this area in Florida, we have really good history in this area too. So a lot of the streets are smaller. You're going to get a lot more historic housing and everything. So that's why it's really Minnetonka. And then partially, if we really want to get specific here, we will find into kind of the Linden Hills area, Fulton. What was Calhoun? That type of area. Okay? Does that make sense? Old Calhoun. Okay? When it comes to Eden Prairie, now Eden Prairie is a little unique. Now, Eden Prairie, let me get to Eden Prairie over here. Excuse me. Eden Prairie has a good amount of space. I would compare Eden Prairie up here to Trinity and East Lake, the western side of West Chase, and even coming up to the Odessa, kind of the Seven Springs, all this type of area up here, right? So you're going to find a little bit more space up here. You're going to find bigger homes. It's very nice. Parts of Safety Harbor will feel like Eden Prairie, but it's going to be bigger homes, kind of a little bit more of a suburban feel. Pretty much everything Palm Harbor is kind of more suburban too, but you're going to get the space over here when it comes to what you're going to get in Eden Prairie. You're going to find that in this area of Tampa over here too. Okay. So now we're going to get into kind of the more bar scene, the college, a little bit more dense. When I think of dense, I think of Dinkytown, and I think of kind of the rowdiness. I think of Ybor to Dinkytown. Okay, where did Dinkytown go? Excuse me. Here we are. So we'll really think about the entire university area, right? When I think of that, I think of parts of Longfellow. I think of over by US Bank. I think of this entire area here where you'll have kind of a lot of fun. It's a good area to go out, you know, not really towards the state fairgrounds, but really from Prospect Park to US Bank Stadium, the University of Minnesota, that whole area. We're going to be looking at over here in Ybor, kind of the historic district. We have the main street over here that comes on with everything. You got the old Columbia restaurant. You got historic restaurants in this area too. I would compare kind of Dinkytown to US Bank to Longfellow, Midtown, Prospect Park, what we're looking at here, parts of Como, to historic district in Ybor, right? You get the party, you get some historic homes, you get a little bit, you know, maybe don't stay out too late. But you're going to get that in Ybor, and then you're also going to get that in kind of this eastern side of Minneapolis here too, right? So, and then the last one here is, I would say the pinnacle of really big, beautiful housing. We're going to look at parts of South Minneapolis. We're going to look at parts of Lake Harriet, Fulton, Linden Hills, like I said, the old Calhoun area, and then parts of Edina, right, where you really have the really big, nice homes, the ones that you're like, holy smokes, that's amazing. The same with, I would say, Wayzata, okay, Wayzata, Long Lake, and we're going to get into like Deep Haven. We'll get into Excelsior, okay, so we'll have those kind right on Lake Minnetonka, okay, and then we'll focus on South Minneapolis here, the big houses where a lot of people live that have huge amounts of money. We're going to be looking at over here on this little place called Davis Island. Davis Island is, for instance, that's where Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, Derek Jeter, multiple New York Yankees, huge names and massive houses, absolutely beautiful houses, but they cost, you know, I think the cheapest property I've seen out there that is in a house is, you know, $1.2 million and up. And you'll get that pretty much throughout South Minneapolis, Linden Hills, Edina, parts of Edina, I would say. But really Deep Haven, Excelsior, Wayzata, Long Lake, Orono for sure, and kind of the surrounding of Lake Minnetonka, right? You're going to get super, super classic. You're going to get nice neighborhoods. You're going to get massive houses. I would say it's not, you know, Davis Island is very, very centrally located. It's a little difficult because there's only one way in, you know, and kind of one way out. As you can see here, the way in, the way out. Floods a lot, but it's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Very, very tight-knit community, and everybody, houses don't last too long when they're on Davis Island if they're priced appropriately. You kind of get that same thing through Minnetonka here and that whole area. So, we're going to be doing quite a few more of these videos when it comes to breaking down the differences and the comparisons of good old Minnesota to the Tampa Bay area of Florida. And when I say Tampa Bay is the bay, obviously in the middle here. Tampa Bay comes with Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, and I would even say parts, Sarasota is kind of St. Cloud to Minneapolis, if you can see here. So Minneapolis, Twin Cities right here. St. Cloud, I would say Sarasota is the St. Cloud distance-wise when it comes to, yes, you're close to the cities, but you're, about hour, 2 hours out, that type of thing. So I hope this has been super helpful, and we'll dive into more neighborhood comparisons when it comes to it. So if you're looking to move from Minnesota to the Tampa Bay area, reach out to me. I'm licensed in Minnesota and I'm licensed in Florida, and it's really easy to make the move because personally I've done it and it's been a really big success. So stick with us and we'll bring you more videos, and hopefully this helped.